The naturally occurring psychoactive compound, psilocybin, is found in over 200 species of mushrooms. Despite their millennia of use by humans for mental and spiritual well-being, they have been classified falsely among the most dangerous and illegal of substances, locked away from those who need them most. The Psilocybin Chronicles documents the individuals who courageously consume, collect, or cultivate these mushrooms to improve the quality of their lives. Won't you join us as we welcome the return of psilocybin? Welcome to the Psilocybin Chronicles. I am your host, Eric Osborne. This podcast is intended for education and harm reduction purposes only. The Psilocybin Chronicles, Myco Meditations, nor myself condones any illegal activity. Brooke Novick is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a private practice in New York. She works with clients of all ages and specializes in anxiety, low self-esteem, and psychedelic integration. Brooke is a graduate of the California Institute of Integral Studies certificate program in psychedelic-assisted therapies and research. She is profoundly passionate about the ability of entheogens to assist individuals, couples, and families on their journey of healing and growth. Brooke is committed to helping people access psilocybin-assisted work in a safe set and setting in hopes of individuals experiencing healing, trust, and opening more fully to love. For more information, please visit brookenovick.com. Won't you join me in welcoming Brooke Novick to the Psilocybin Chronicles? All right, Brooke, welcome to the Psilocybin Chronicles.
Thank you so much for having me.
Again. That was a test run way back then.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I wonder if your answer has changed. I do recall your answer from the last time, but let's go there. If you could take psilocybin mushrooms with anybody, who would that be and why?
So I would definitely choose my grandparents, my father's parents, who were Holocaust survivors. They just experienced so much trauma and had no one to process it with. And I just think this work would have been really helpful for them and really could have helped with their healing tremendously.
Mm-hmm. What, if anything, did they use to get through that trauma as life went on?
I think there was just a lot of repression because there was really nothing else to do. Like they just had to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Mm-hmm. But, my grandfather used to have like really bad nightmares and, scream in his sleep. So, they made beautiful lives for themselves here, but I think it would have been just so much better if they could have done some healing.
How much were you aware? Like, when did they pass, and how much were you aware of what they were going through from all that?
They didn't talk about it that much with me, more with me than they did with my father. But my grandfather passed when I was 11, so I was pretty young, and then my grandmother passed when I was older, like in my late 20s.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's they're pretty old for Holocaust survivors then, were they?
Yeah. My grandmother was like 94 when she passed.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, you got some good genes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Colin and I were actually talking about Holocaust and the trauma, and wow, what that must have been like on people last night. It is. I actually ate mushrooms in Amsterdam, and as I was walking down the main street to the Schiphol train station there where they came in. Apparently, Anne Frank's house was right there. Yeah, I was taken back there that day, back when mushrooms were legal in Amsterdam. There's so much pain in this world, that's what I know you as a therapist see this, and I, with psychedelic work, see there's just so much pain. And people often ask, why? Do you have any answer for that?
It's a really good question.
It's tough, right?
It's really
I stumble
tough.
every time someone asks. I don't know why.
Yeah. I think pain can motivate us to grow. So maybe that's part of it.
It's definitely a good outlook. Yeah. And, if the pain pays off in growth, then it serves a purpose, you know. It doesn't make it any easier to bear, but it serves a purpose. Well, so, you know, I know a little bit about your personal story and some of the pain you worked through, and I know that psilocybin has played a big role in that. But before we get to kind of the way psilocybin has helped you, let's just talk about when you first heard of psilocybin. What did you think? And was that also the first time you tried it, or did you hear about it before you tried it?
I was definitely, I don't know. It's probably in high school when I heard about it. I have older siblings, so I'm the youngest, so I learned a lot from them. And I was 16 when I first tried psilocybin.
Okay.
Yeah. My brother returned from fish tour and had some leftovers and gave it to me and a friend. And it was a beautiful experience. We just laughed for like 4 hours straight. The mushrooms gave me a very warm welcome.
Good.
Yeah.
They tend to do that especially when it's that recreational kind of, let's just eat some mushrooms and see what happens. They're often very, very friendly and enticing.
Yes.
And they have a way of shifting gears later on. But it surprises me how many people I've talked to have never heard of psilocybin until they tried it. They're just like, somebody gave me some psilocybin, some mushrooms one time. I never even heard of magic mushrooms.
Wow.
Really? So, you know, you had a little bit of prep. You had a little bit of idea anyway of what you were in for. At that point, it was just kind of recreational purely.
Yeah.
High school, I would assume.
Yeah.
People weren't talking about the therapy they got out of psilocybin in high school. When did you start to recognize that this medicine had a therapeutic application?
Yeah. So in my 20s, early 20s probably, I was struggling with a lot of social anxiety, which started in middle school and really continued on through college. But when I started working with psilocybin with more of an intention to do some healing, I really started to notice that things were shifting. So that was like the beginning of my introduction to like, this stuff can really like change things in a positive way. But I was also struggling for a long time with bulimia, and I was not talking about it with anyone, and I was in a lot of denial about what was going on, and there was a lot of shame wrapped up in with it as well. So I just really wasn't talking about it. And like in my mid-20s, I started working with psilocybin really with like a lot of intention, and it's no exaggeration to say that my whole life changed after that.
Were you made aware that psilocybin could be applied therapeutically, or had you stumbled upon it in practice?
I just stumbled upon it. Yeah. I just started to see how much it was shifting things for me, and then I like really started making intentions behind my work. Okay.
And what did those sessions look like? Were you by yourself, with others? Was it very formal?
I was never alone for those sessions. I was in groups or maybe with like one other person. And we tried to, make it a bit ceremonial and, just with a lot of respect for the medicine without like the recreational feel.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed about you is that you have a great respect for people and their space and what they're going through and the medicine itself. It seems like the way you move through life, what I see of you, you are just you try to stay just aware and just like respectful of the space. So that's one of the things that makes you so good at working within the space of psilocybin, which that is a completely different thing, right? So let's talk about some of your experiences working with psilocybin, applying it to others directly.
Yeah, it's been a dream. It's been amazing. As a therapist, I sit with people all day long and I just think like, I wish I could give you some psilocybin. I think that would really help. So to be able to do it here is such a gift. it's just such a gift.
So what does it look like? I mean, you're as a therapist and what you're seeing. I mean, you spend hours working with Otis, who I recorded with last night or yesterday. And for listeners who keep up on the episodes, Otis's third experience. Well, maybe I'll let you describe that a little better since you were there with him. But that will come in a minute. But as a therapist, like you said, sitting with people, and then without psilocybin, and then sitting with them with psilocybin, describe some of the differences that you see.
I think in regular sessions, without psilocybin, it's very easy for people to come in and control the experience. Like our minds are so powerful, so people can not say things, or things can be so repressed, or there can be such high levels of denial that like things are just not spoken about that really need to be spoken about. And I feel like with psilocybin, that stuff just gets, you get to it much faster. Of course, everyone's different, and like we can't have expectations, but typically or very often, I've been seeing people get to the root of their issues much faster. And I feel like in this retreat alone, we've heard numerous times people say like, I've been in therapy for, since I was 17 and now I'm 50 or 60. And, all I needed was like 2 sessions or with psilocybin. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, talk about that. So you have sat with many people, and then with this gentleman in particular, what did you see there directly now? And what the difference, I'm thinking like the amount of time. You don't normally spend that much time with clients, right? So it's different in that regard. But just as far as the outpouring that you saw, can you kind of describe that? And I know Otis, so much respect for this guy that has come down here and worked so hard. He's not worked so hard just here. He's worked so hard his whole life. As a hospital administrator, physician, family physician, psychiatrist, just so much respect for this guy, and respect for us, because we did put in a lot of time with this, and I think he really brought that home to me, the importance of us taking care of ourselves, and the importance of us washing out our work. So anyway, can you describe some of what you saw yesterday?
Yeah. Otis is amazing. So I'm excited to hear his episode. And I'm really grateful that the field of medicine has someone like that as a member.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Otis was having a deeply cathartic experience for hours and hours, and just releasing things and memories and feelings that had been stuck inside of him for years, for 40 years. Things that he never felt comfortable or able to talk about with other people. And he was walking around with that every day, and that's miserable.
But isn't it amazing how, I mean, the intensity that is felt during the session is a big part of it. But just the outpouring of words and memories and experience, and how speaking that does it, you can see it actually working to unload a burden from someone. It's how powerful our minds and our words we are. It's amazing.
Yeah. I feel like Otis freed up so much space within him yesterday.
Well, so with Otis, with every single individual here, and with Leslie, we saw this very, very drastic release of what it's like. We're hearing words, right? But now to get really, this is going to get off track for mainstream therapy right now, is that you and I were 2 of the facilitators that consumed psilocybin yesterday. Of the 6 facilitators that we had for 13 guests, which was nearly a 2-to-1 ratio, plenty, you and I dosed, and we have talked about feeling this energetic release. Like sometimes it's heat. With Otis, there's some purging, and I'm so curious at how the world of standard therapeutic practice is going to engage with what psilocybin elicits, and then how we're going to develop language and understandings and measurements of it. So, it's obviously very early in the stage, and there's not, we have such a beautiful opportunity to be working with this ahead of the curve, and consistently we recognize this. There's no denying if it's especially when it's heat. Like when I feel heat coming off of someone at such a distance, it's just like, all right, there's an unseen energy that is radiating off this person at 6 feet distance or whatever. So what's your understanding of all that, and how? Yeah, just start there.
Well, it's pretty fascinating, all the things that can happen in the mushroom space. And it's difficult to speak of, like, I love this medicine and I've been working with it for so many years, but I don't really think I, understand it so much. I trust it, but I don't, I don't really know if I fully understand. But I do worry that the field of therapy will, label these things in maybe like not the most positive way, or just, I don't know. I worry that the professional world can sort of like take out some of the magic, or try to like label things. And I don't know if I'm even making.
No, I don't know either. And I just want to explore this, because right now it's just talk. It's just theory. Yeah. Right now. And we got one step away from it. I don't know if you saw where the House rejected the bill to make Schedule I substances easier for science to study.
Oh, no.
There is a rider. There's like a line that was added on, who knows how long after or whatever, that says that that is it's not even the fucking bill or the law. It's a rider added on that does not allow these substances, Schedule I substances, to come out of Schedule I and ever make it easier to study as science.
Wow.
It's fucking crazy.
I really, that makes me really upset. People, these medicines are illegal, and it seems like it really should be illegal to not have them available for people.
That's a crime. It is a crime. Yeah. Well, and then there's the whole thing. There's the Denver thing, the California thing. I know it's easy for us to get kind of excited about this, but I suggest a tempered approach, because the rug can get pulled out quicker than we think. So, that's one of the reasons that having a professional language around the psychedelic experience that is fits into the framework of our culture is really important for us to develop. And I'm not sure that we're even really very close yet, because like you said, you work with these medicines for 20 years and you still don't know. You have intimations or intuitions about things. What about from a dosing perspective? I'm imagining you see a lot of medicated individuals, and that also in the Western medical model is a very standardized approach, right? And I think you've seen how non-standard psilocybin is as far as dosing goes. Talk about that.
Yeah. So, everyone's sensitivity levels are so different, and it's definitely not by body weight or height. So I don't think it really can be standardized. Some people some people need 10 grams and some people need 2 grams. Everyone is so different. And sometimes, 3 grams is different for the same person in different experiences, different times, different days. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yourself, you talked about that. You had the first and the second. How were they again? What the first dose you said it was kind of normal onset, but really strong?
Yeah. So the first dose, this retreat, I took 1 gram, and it came on fairly quickly, and it was pretty strong. not very visual, but pretty strong. And so when I took a gram last night, I thought it would be similar, but it was quite different. It took about 2 hours to come on. And then it was then once it came on, it was very strong, but this time it was also very visual.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We didn't talk about that. And so let's explore that. Again, like as a therapist, you're working with people, normal baseline level of consciousness most of the time, and then you throw in this perception altering substance. And how does that impact you as a therapist in the working space?
I really love the sessions where I dose. I mean, I love all the sessions, but when I dose, I feel even more tapped in to the collective energy of the group and to people, individually. I think it's really important for for facilitators to be dosing in the sessions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. We need more voices that speak to that. Yeah. Well, last night, wow, that was, let's you and I do some integrating that session. Yeah. Because we actually spent a fair amount of time in the same space there. We had, talk about heroic doses. We had a heroic, how do you say that? Dose last night. I don't know if we'll get her on the show, but she was talking about being on. So I will go ahead and give her a shout out. Amelia, the Explorer. She did 20 grams, folks. We went from 3 and it was very, very, very low response. And then I worked at 10 grams with her, and it was still pretty mild response. So we did it. She had the intuition that she should take 20. She is a therapist like Brooke. So that's got to be interesting for you to be here with colleagues and their first experiences with psilocybin. And it was a powerful session. And like you said, the group collective experience is just a fascinating thing to be in and observe. We've got a big space with people in basically three different areas of this large yard. And then we as facilitators, we kind of start out in a spot. I assign everyone a spot and we start there. And then just kind of the afternoon moves on and we rotate around, give each other relief and move to different spaces and bring our individual energy to the space, even though we're not often speaking to anyone. So how did you, like you said, it came on rather slow and then it hit you all of a sudden. I'm interested, like, when did you get that first wave?
I was sitting at a table in the common space of one of the buildings, and I was kind of sad that I wasn't feeling anything. And it was 2 hours in, so I thought, okay, I kind of just surrendered to that experience. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I started to, again, it's so difficult to say in words, but I just started to feel like some energy moving around in my body. And I thought, oh, okay. And then very quickly after that, it just got stronger and stronger and visual and a lot of energy moving through my body last night.
How did that coincide, or how did that wind play into your experience? And when did that, within the onset and the coming in of that weather?
Yeah, it definitely felt related. I was inside, so I wasn't really feeling the wind, but I did notice the weather change. Mm-hmm. And it did seem like that's when things took a shift. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not real often. And, again, we don't know what's going on. We're tripping. But after hundreds of trips, you start to notice consistencies and you start to trust your feelings, and man, whatever it was, that kind of big breeze that came in right the hour and a half of the peak, it was like the upslope and right into the peak, and then it just kind of passed through. Was great timing. I was just I don't know, there was, I'd been around the area through the different spots and was there and could feel it coming on, and just like all of a sudden it was just boom, I had to run. And I was just like it was just pure movement, and it felt like it was centered around that room.
Yeah, actually, now that I'm listening to you, I was with you when you were moving around, and that definitely like was stirring something up in me as well. It's all so connected.
It's also connected. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And really, we sincerely, I mean, I don't think we sound crazy or weird, or maybe a little weird or whatever. But that is part and parcel of psilocybin, and maybe that's the thing. Is like, even myself, I'm trying to wash away the weird, but we all know that weird is where the work gets done here, right? I mean, like Otis and his when I first saw him like really going into it yesterday, I like popped open the door and he's on all fours crawling to the bathroom like, oh, here we go. And that's when you went back there and so graciously spent so much time working with him and helped him so much.
But I just want to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, please.
Weird is where the work gets done. In my regular office, it's not that weird. And people are so reserved and normal and, which is fine. But there's so much like self-consciousness and worry and fear and all the defenses. And it gets in the way so much of getting the work done. And I feel like so much of my work at home is just breaking through those defenses. So in the mushroom space, it's just like, boom, broken through. Let's do the work.
Yes. It is that, like, oh God, that keeping the lid on it, just keeping the lid on it, pretending we're in control. So folks, let go of control. That's what the lesson we continually learn here is we're not in control. There goes the breeze. I don't control that. Here comes the waves. Nope, don't control that. I don't even control what? My kids? I definitely don't control my kids. Shit. Yeah, we're just even as therapists or working with people on improving the quality of their life, all we can do is just kind of point some directions and hope people find things on their own. And that's the thing with psilocybin. If you go inside, you will find it, and then talking it out with people who listen and care and just listen. Really, the medicine does the work, and if you just have a caring person there with you, see how beautiful humanity can be. You're like, fuck, probably it's not that bad. There is hope. So, what is your hope for psilocybin as a therapy? I mean, I feel like we've kind of talked about that, but be as specific as you can. Yeah,
I guess my main hope is that people really continue and do respect it as a medicine. And, I don't want people to see it as like a cure. And I don't think it's helpful to come to this space with like super high expectations. I think my main hope is that people like really respect it and just like surrender and like open and trust the experience and know that like whatever experience you get is what you need. And it might be so different than what you're wanting, but like that's the medicine you're needing. This medicine is so old. It's been around for how many years? Like,
I don't think years count when you're talking mushrooms. Forever.
Like it knows what it's doing. It's been around way longer than Western medications. So,
do you find that you get much pushback in your peer community when you talk kind of in that way? I mean, like the plants, because the medicine, I do believe that there is an awareness or there is an intelligence behind everything, and the medicine is part of that. Do you get pushback?
In the professional community, sometimes, yeah. With my friends and regular community, no. But I think the therapy community is not very well educated on this work yet. So there's a lot of education that needs to happen because there is a ton of misunderstanding around this still.
Yeah. And what you're speaking of is a respect for the medicine, acknowledging that it is the medicine. Like it's not us. It's not us.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, if you're you can definitely negatively impact someone else's trip for sure. But if you are just sincerely a caring person that asks good questions and is not trying to lead people down a path, then you can be a very good assistant.
Yeah.
Psychedelic therapist, if you want to call it that. And you're very right that there is a huge misunderstanding. You know better than me for sure within the community, but I guess I do see it quite a bit because I have a lot of therapists come down and think they read about psilocybin and they're like, oh, I know what this is going to be like, and then they get in, they're like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah, that's mushrooms. So what about when you think in terms of facilities? What would a psilocybin space in the city look like ideally?
That's a tough question because I really love that at MICO, everyone gets to be outside and in a group. I think both of those factors are like very important. But okay, so people need to do this work elsewhere also. So like if you're in New York City, I would love for the space to be big with room for like movement, and so you don't have to be confined to one space. So I think like open space and maybe group opportunities would be beautiful.
Yeah. A little bit of outdoor, indoor option, group opportunities, safe. Yeah. Nature is really such a big part of getting
I feel like nature can just hold the energy of the work so well. Yeah.
I think about that sometimes when we're tripping here, and we are directly on the coast. You can maybe hear the ocean, and think about that big tree right there, that big tall one with the new leaf sticking up by the cabana. The second dose, the first time I dosed with this group, there was a point where I just I was just brought from the top of that hill right down to that tree and just wrapped my arms around it and just held onto it and was thinking like this thing's been here through hurricanes, through all this storm, and it's the space that you're in has such a role to play, even if it's like those archetypes.
Yeah.
I look forward. Hopefully, I'm praying that I get to be a part of if this thing does legalize in the States, doing some designing of trip spaces. And even here we're working to improve that, and wherever we go, it's just so fun getting to work with this medicine. Fun, rewarding, exhilarating. How do you feel now after you worked long and hard yesterday, but physically and emotionally, how are you feeling today?
I was really tired after the session, but I got a great night's sleep and I woke up and I feel great. I had breakfast, I did my morning routine, and I feel great. And more than anything, like I feel so grateful that I got to be with Otis last night and the group overall. Like it's, I didn't get enough sleep, but that's okay. Like it doesn't even matter right now because I'm so grateful. Like it's such a gift to be doing this work.
Yeah, it really is. And you can feel it in your own energy and how it enlivens us to do this work, even though it is challenging. And that's another thing, as we think about the future of psychedelic medicines and wherever they are, and the administrators of the medicine have to be, like we've shown with Otis and talked about, taking care of themselves, because it is a powerful space, not just for the people that we're working with, but especially when we use the medicine. It's a powerful processing tool for us that we need to continue supporting each other and being just good mirrors.
Yeah. Taking care of ourselves is so important. Like if I don't take care of myself, I can't show up for people in that space. So that comes first.
All right. Well, what's the billboard?
Okay. The billboard is a Ram Dass quote, which is, "Your problem is you're too busy holding on to your unworthiness." I just feel like psilocybin taught me, like, whoa, you're beautiful. Love yourself. Like, stop feeling so unworthy. It's like wasting your time. Not wasting, but Yeah. Like, we're all so beautiful. And like, I really believe we're each here for a unique purpose. And yeah. Holding
on to any of it, holding on to any of it. And like shame and I should have and all that stuff, holding on to any of it. Just let it go. I think that's what, especially after yesterday's dose, man, for me, like I haven't thought about my billboard. Well, I've got a fucking 20 of them. That's one to do it. Just let it go. It felt so good yesterday, just letting it go.
Yeah.
All right, Brooke. Well, thank you again for your third retreat, our second family retreat. It's always a pleasure having you here, and thanks again for joining back on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
All right. You are too busy holding on to your unworthiness. Boom. Oh, let that shit go, friends. In fact, let me let go and let Ram Dass share his thoughts on the topic.
It takes us a long time, many of us more longer than others, to come up out of the darkness of our feelings of unworthiness, of unlovableness, of allowing that liquidity to happen, of feeling safe to be in the presence of love. When I first experienced my guru loving me, my mind kept flickering with the thoughts of, if he only knew. And then I realized that he did know. And he was still loving me. And it took me through the and whatever you are, however you are at this moment, when you can accept that you are lovable, then the fear starts to dissolve. It's allowing your own beauty. It's allowing the beauty of your soul, which is behind your personality. It's behind all that stuff. Just another radiant bit of light, another soul. And I think at this moment, it's nothing violent to do. You just observe the kind of sadness, the feeling of loneliness, the feeling of separateness, the feeling of pain. You just watch it and allow it. And don't get too fierce about it, or don't feel too deprived about it, and don't milk the self-pity of it. You know, just notice that it's just a passing show. It's just another place your mind is grabbing. It's all mind. You realize that. The only thing you're stuck in is not even history. It's just mind. It's a model you have of who you think you are and who you think everybody else is. That's all it is. That's exactly what's causing your suffering at this moment, is your own thought forms. And you're clinging to them and saying, this is real. It's like somebody who sees a rope and they think it's a snake and they get frightened, and then somebody says it's just a rope, and then suddenly they're not frightened anymore. And it's as simple as that. It really is the mind. And that's finally why you're driven to work on your mind, to quiet your mind, because you see the way your personality is really just a series of thoughts that you keep investing. Like the first moment you felt the sadness or the loneliness or the emptiness or the pain, that started a whole track of, oh, this is like I've always felt in the past, and you started to build the whole storyline all over again. And it's at that moment, it's just, sadness. Oh, yes. Comes and goes. Because I would say that most people in this room, if you scratch the surface, you will find some residual unworthiness. From just having grown up on Earth. I mean, it's interesting because you don't understand that the personality itself is rooted in fear and vulnerability. That's where the root is of it. Because you go from being, can you imagine being the baby that is everything in the universe to starting to be this little vulnerable tiny thing. And the first time you realize there are big forces and you're not them, how incredibly inadequate one must feel if you could give words to it. And every one of us has been through that moment. And for most of us, it's buried so deeply, we can never get hold of it.
I know. He makes it sound easy, doesn't he? And it can be once we start learning how to let go. Once we do that, it tends to get easier. With some backsliding for sure. But my goodness, that sense of unworthiness can penetrate into our very cells. And then it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, like a skipping record, just blasting us over and over with perceived negativity. I mean, some of us might even feel like our sense of unworthiness is exactly what makes us unworthy. What a dangerous cycle that can be. Those loops, folks, those loops, my goodness, can they be tough to get out of. Psilocybin can help us get out of these loops, but usually not until it face plants us into our own personal spirals of despair. As many of you know, I'm sure, psilocybin mushrooms can exacerbate these mental loops within the direct experience, occasionally manifesting as horrifying and seemingly inescapable insanity, verbal repetition of single phrases for hours, time spirals, or uncontrollable repetitive physical movements. Weird stuff. But while difficult and occasionally confusing, it's often the only way our conscious mind can be awoken to the fact that each and every day we are operating as if we're in a loop. Best method I've found for getting out of the loop is to release control. Relax into it, and eventually it will suck you down into the vortex and spit you out the other side. I believe that only when we can become aware of these loops, then we can potentially stop resisting them. I know it's strange, isn't it? You would think that awareness would lead to resistance, and it can. We often double down, as my friend Ladora has put it, but we can only do that for a while. It has been said, aptly so, resistance is futile. We will be forced to face ourselves head on, folks. Maybe through the consequences of our behavior, such as broken relationships or habitual unemployment, or maybe through one of the aforementioned examples of how mushrooms can manifest our patterns. If we're unaware of our habitual ways of thinking and behaving, well, then we just kind of coast along with low-grade resistance. Psilocybin mushrooms tend to illustrate the loops that are kind of like a comfort zone for the default mode network. And comfort, my friends, is a killer. These defense mechanisms can often become the walls that imprison us. The tighter we hold on, the more impossible it becomes to get out. And while Ram Dass and Eric Osborne can tell you over and over about letting go, until you experience it yourself, until you let go, well, it's just an abstract idea, and I'm just talking to hear myself talk. Go eat some mushrooms. In a safe and legal setting, please. Get uncomfortable with yourself so that you can relax into your perfection. I am so very grateful that you have chosen to spend more of your time with myself and Brooke in the Psilocybin Chronicles. May all of your journeys, both inward and outward, be safe and rewarding.